Today, we're going to start talking about Trump's global tariffs being blocked by an American federal judge.
A federal court has blocked his tariffs on China and other countries, ruling that the president had overstepped his authority under the law.
In April, the president declared a national emergency to impose his so-called reciprocal tariffs on goods from every country that trades with the U.S. without seeking approval from Congress.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
As markets roiled, Trump defiant.
I know what the hell I'm doing.
But overnight, the federal panel ruling that the law does not authorize the president to use emergency powers to issue tariffs, and that his executive orders exceed any authority granted to the president. The judges appointed by Presidents Reagan, Obama, and Trump also blocking tariffs Trump imposed on China, Mexico, and Canada to combat fentanyl trafficking because they do not deal with the threats described in the president's order. The Trump administration overnight quick to appeal, the White House rebuking the court.
I think the court's coming after our big, beautiful boy that simply wanted to molest the money, and stopping his money molestations is really messed up. The judges that have played a role in blocking this so far, as far as I understand, are Reagan judges, Obama judges, which is of course lame. Obviously, Obama is a communist, but also Trump appointees. So it's not like these guys are all woke libtards, okay? Down to the Obabe judge. So they're just saying enough is enough. Your money molestation must stop. And it's really messed up. I was thinking about this. As you guys know, I don't entertain conspiracy theories. I do like conspiracy theories. I like analyzing conspiracy theories, but I'm not like a big conspiracy theorist. Having said that, this has played out so perfectly that it almost feels like a psyop to make it seem like if there was ever an opportunity for real trade protectionism, if there was actually a real socialist in charge, that the court system and all of our legal processes will destroy that, because Donald Trump has gone through this in the most idiotic way possible, that it almost feels like we just wanted to make sure that the judicial process could just like eliminate any kind of initiative from the executive office in the future. Of course, while all this is happening, the Trump administration says it will appeal the tariff ruling. This is from yesterday. A reminder to watch this play out in courts and beware the volatility that surrounds it. Also a reminder that rule of law in American court system as a balance is a huge reason investors flock to the U.S. If there's a perceived breakdown with this issue or others, it would mean a breakdown in confidence of inbound investment. An observation: for the past month or so, I've had CEOs and CIOs of major U.S. and international corporations and investment firms pull up lawsuits, including far outside of tariffs, such as Harvard's, with the briefs saved handy on their cell phones. They're watching for fairness at the end of the day to see that the system holds up. I think a lot of people don't understand how important this is. As someone who grew up in Turkey, let me tell you, at the end of the day, you either need to have an incredibly cheap manufacturing base so that you can offer super profits to multinational corporations like China does, or you have to have an incredibly solid, transparent legal structure so that your investments are kept safe. At least there is some sort of legal restitution that you can get. America offers a court system and a functional, I guess, like judicial utopia in comparison to many other countries. The reason why I'm making this comparison with Turkey is because when I was at Bloomberg in Turkey, Bloomberg Habertürk in Turkey, this was one of the things that came up quite frequently when I think this was like the era of privatization for Erdogan. I mean, there's never not been an era of privatization for Erdogan. I remember vividly there was one meeting I went to with like MBA students. The most important thing that they were talking about is like, in order to bring in foreign capital into the country, there needs to be some kind of presence of parity and the presence of fairness, and that when things are done, when business and commerce is done in like very corrupt ways, bribery, or when the government can like seize assets or pick and choose winners in the marketplace aggressively, that actually causes investors to pull out, foreign capital to pull out of the country. If your investments are not protected by at least like some institutions that will at least be as fair as possible, you're going to have a harder time bringing in foreign capital into your country. And the same goes for the United States of America as well. The United States is basically like the one of the greatest examples of this. For the United States of America, we don't have a cheap nor robust manufacturing base. The only thing we have is the courts. The only thing we have is the institutions. So Trump is not only molesting the money directly, but he's also kind of molesting the process. But let's see.
Saying it is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency. Adding the administration is committed to using every lever of executive power to address this crisis and restore American greatness. For weeks, the president's on-again, off-again tariffs have caused whiplash on Wall Street, sparking major sell-offs when he issues new threats and rallies when he pulls them back. In the Oval Office yesterday, Trump lashing out when a reporter asked about a new term for his turnarounds.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response?
I'm not kidding when I say this. This, I think, originally came from the Financial Times reporting, and Financial Times has been kind of carrying the entirety of Legacy Publishers of the West on his back for the past year and a half. I kind of feel like the taco shit is dangerous, but I would be lying to you if I were to tell you I'm not excited to see where this goes. I'd be lying to you. And I kind of feel like a lot of people that have been, that feel as though they've been f***ed over by these systems also want to see how badly Trump can blow this shit up. I'm scared. I'm cautious. I think that it's not good if we had a Great Depression. But also at the same time, don't you kind of want to see where he will take this a little bit? At least for me, there is this morbid curiosity, and I want to see, like, how badly could he molest the money? How badly could he fuck the bag up? I think there are a lot of people who, like, deep down inside, there's a lot of people who are like, I kind of want to see where this goes. Who do you think? Who do you think is more freaked out? I know everyone is saying that's because you are a rich man, you are privileged, you won't end up in the streets. But, like, chatters. I know. That's why I'm saying I'm cautious. That's why I said it's a morbid curiosity. Like, you know it's bad. It's like the call of the void. Like, people are so angry, so resentful, and so interested in change that they're like, change in any direction is good. The reason why I'm describing this to you is because I need you to understand what the anger, like what the motives are for people who like Donald Trump, like where this comes from. Like, what are the different factors that contribute to his popularity? Because I believe that if we actually fully comprehend what those factors are, we can at least use it to our advantage and hopefully get these people on board and redirect them towards more productive points of anger and resentment. Anyway, let's continue.
To that.
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive. And you ask.
He's so mad. He's like, this is the most disgusting question anyone has ever asked. No one has ever asked such a nasty question.
A nasty question like that. It's called negotiation.
The court has now given the administration 10 days to halt these tariffs, and the Justice Department is now appealing, setting up a legal fight that could soon reach the Supreme Court.
From the investor side, there's been a fascinating trend that's gone on, which is I think a lot of investors are looking past tariffs. You know, there is a trade acronym going around Wall Street, and it must be driving the president crazy. It's called the taco trade. Have you heard of it?
No.
Nope.
Trump always chickens out.
Oh.
And this actual acronym is the position that many traders are taking. They are saying he will roll back these tariffs when the bond market moves against.
I don't know.
When the
It's like, should we? I go back and forth on this. On the one hand, I think the taco stuff is very funny and very good. On the other hand, I'm like, should we be playing with fire and antagonizing the beast like this? Also, on the other hand, I'm thinking to myself, why don't we use this to other stuff? You know, it's Taco Thursday, baby. Just weaponize the taco stuff, which clearly is working, on Israel. Just be like, dude, I have it on good authority Benjamin Netanyahu thinks you're a bitch. I'm just saying, maybe we could use the weaponize the taco thing for something more productive, right? I'm out of options, man. I'm out of options. Do you have a better alternative? I don't think so. I want taco to be Trump always commits openly. Yeah, not Trump always chickens out. This is the libbest you've ever been, maybe. Because I'm desperate, man. I'm desperate. Okay, I'm desperate. What are you talking about? It's literally the same reason why I was like, look, man, I don't really care. Obviously, it's a bribe that Qatar gave Donald Trump a $400 million plane. Like, it's not, that's a bribe. Like, everybody knows that's a bribe. This is just how he operates. If that bribe moved him even marginally in the direction of a ceasefire in Gaza, like I don't care. It's awesome. I'll fly to Qatar right now, you know, and kiss the feet.
We're in a situation now. Big picture here is IEPA. We were using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. There's no question that there's an economic emergency with respect to both uses that we had. One is we are in a world where China has killed over 1 million Americans with fentanyl poison. And we took this step to stop that. We will continue to press on that. At the same time, we invoked that rule to stop what has been 20 million illegal aliens streaming into our country, driving down wages, taking jobs away. That's an economic emergency. And on top of that, the world continues to steal about $1 trillion a year as measured by the trade deficit. And that's an economic emergency because it's transferring our wealth abroad. So we think we have a strong case. Yes, we will immediately appeal and try to stay the ruling.
I want to close my eyes for a moment and imagine, like, I want to put myself in the shoes of a guy who hears Peter Navarro say this and then believes it. When virtually everything that you can observe is going against everything that these guys say. Like, I want to know what kind of, like, who is the type of dude that watches and goes, hell yeah, they're doing so many deals, dude. They're doing so many deals. America's on the up and up, dude. Trump brought in $100 gazillion, dude. And you're like, Dad, that's not a real number. You just heard that on television. Like, what? Who told you this? What is the purpose of all of this? They just lie about everything, like all the time, with great frequency. And I guess people kind of believe it. You know, people just believe it. They want to believe it, so they believe it.
Interestingly enough, I was scheduled to come on the program today to talk about the bond market and the big, beautiful tax bill. But there is a bridge to.
Oh, I love that they're calling it the big, beautiful tax bill. Again, another point for the complete devolution, the complete regression of American political discourse, American politics in general. It's signaled to the dumbest guy you know. Everything that this administration is doing is signaling to the stupidest person you've ever encountered. Incredible, fantastic, phenomenal.
And a lot of the hysteria around the big, beautiful tax bill centers on the Congressional Budget Office scoring that bill in a way which says there's going to be a $3.7 trillion addition to America's national debt over the next 10 years. And so, of course, you got to finance that, and that drives interest rates.
One might ask, why is this bill supposed to add to the deficit? I don't understand. I thought Republicans cared about the deficit. I thought they were deficit hawks. Oh, that's right. It's because it's a massive wealth transfer. Once again, it is supposed to offer ginormous tax cuts to the wealthiest in American society. And in order to make up for the trillions of dollars in tax cuts, you have to take money away from someone. And that money that they're taking away from people is the working poor. Many of them are in the Trump base, as a matter of fact. Many of them who rely on Medicare, as a matter of fact. 8 to 12 million kicked off of Medicare coverage, SNAP benefits taken away from tens of millions of people with children. Fantastic stuff overall for the working poor. Get back to work and enslave yourselves. You're able-bodied enough is the attitude. Very cool. Very cool to do this, I think, in America. Big, beautiful bill. Gonna be awesome. Can't wait to win and win harder and win more. I'm just so tired of winning.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much. I love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Medicaid, not Medicare. Did I say Medicare?
People need to wrap their heads around the fact that every day here in America, people die because communist China puts 50-gallon drums full of these chemicals that come over to the Mexican cartels and then are made not just into fentanyl. They use the fentanyl to spike heroin, to spike methamphetamines, to spike ecstasy, and they're even putting it in prescription drugs like Xanax and Valium. And people are dying. It's been over 1 million people, 1 million Americans. And it's an economic emergency because a lot of those people are prime age working force here in America. So this kind of court ruling, the judge, I mean, look, the lead.
Does anyone believe that the Trump tariff stuff is for fentanyl? I feel like obviously they wanted to do this in a way where they could declare a national emergency so that they could have even more power. Because normally a lot of the tariff stuff, especially if it's directional, especially if it's like industry specific, is usually left up to the executive authority. Congress has historically allowed the executive office, the White House, to make decisions on tariffs. But Donald Trump knows, or at least Donald Trump's advisors know, that he can't make these broad declarative, and not industry-wide, but broad declarative tariffs on every single country in the way that he has. Obviously, as the courts also have ruled, you do not have that kind of power. And therefore, he had to find, like, I guess his advisors had to find a devious way to give him this awesome power, this extraordinary power, right? And part of that comes from declaring things a national emergency. If you declare something a national emergency, then the White House has more power than it did prior. So in order to declare something a national emergency, or in order to use the tariffs as a weapon to wield, he basically said, like, oh, this is the fentanyl. It's because of fentanyl. Fentanyl's coming over the border, and that is a national emergency. Too many people are dying because of fentanyl. And then he turned around and said, that's why we're tariffing in Canada. And I feel like when he just did it on Mexico, it was one thing where most people are like, yeah, it is coming from the southern border, even though ironically, a lot of the tariffs are, a lot of the fentanyl is coming from China by way of regular points of entry, okay, through normal routes of commerce, okay? But having said that, when he was like, oh, that's why we're actually putting a tariff on Canada because of fentanyl, everyone was like, what the do you mean? None of it makes sense. It doesn't, like, I don't know why he's even, like, who believes this? Who's like, yeah, this is actually a great way to deal with the fentanyl crisis by adding tariffs, by basically slapping a sales tax, a broad sales tax on all consumer goods. We are combating fentanyl.
But if the court said, if the ruling said, Peter, and we've been talking about this, page 34, 35, they say, basically, you are in your right if you use Section 122. Why didn't you guys do that from the beginning?
Well, Section 122 only gives you 150 days. So there's your answer right there.
So Section 122, if you use this now for 150 days, would it be a bridge to 301 or a bridge to 232? What are you thinking more long term?
You can be the strategist on that, but those are the kinds of thoughts. And look, if anybody thinks this caught the administration.
You guys are throwing up question marks, but again, the president has, by Congress and through precedent, broad powers on directing trade. So the question that they're asking Peter Navarro here is not the wrong one, where it's like, you already have these powers. Why wouldn't you use those powers? Why are you instead trying to do this unconstitutional way of, or this illegal way of applying these broad tariffs across the board? I guess it's maybe a trial balloon. I really don't have a good answer for it. The Heritage Foundation's project that has been around and been been implemented slowly but surely for almost 40 years. This is not new. It's not new at all. Part of the reason why the Trump administration is doing this stuff is because they think this is a great way to expand on the power of the executive office by simply calling something a national emergency and then behaving this way and then testing out the courts to ensure that they have this kind of broad sweeping power. I think that's the reason why they're doing it. Because once again, if you think that the Trump administration doesn't have advisors like Heritage Foundation guys that aren't constantly looking at different ways in which to increase the power of the executive office, you're wrong. The one thing that I believe they're too incompetent to do is just like set up a false flag to greatly push for, I don't know, some kind of new war or additional emergency powers that allow them to start deporting American citizens, stuff like that. I think they're too incompetent to set up like a psyop or a false flag. I don't want to make predictions on that though. Who knows? But right now, when I look at like the way that they operate, it's pretty basic. They're kind of blundering into a lot of these positions. They're trying to just basically hip check their way into this agenda. One of the greatest examples of this was what happened with Mahmoud Khalil. Like they are basically working with groups like Beitar. They could have started this process by going after like documented citizens that weren't legal permanent residents, that had said a lot of violent stuff. You know what I mean? Even though it's still constitutionally protected, they could have at least like massaged this in a way where the public sentiment would not be broadly against this kind of anti-1A, anti-First Amendment initiative. But they didn't do that. They just worked with Beitar and thought that Mahmoud Khalil, for example, was on a student visa. They didn't even realize you had a green card and an American wife with a child on the way. Like, these are major mistakes that you're making that are actually very consequential when you're trying to work within the confines of the pre-existing system and moving that in the direction of tyrannical fascism. That kind of uncertainty and that kind of incompetence is basically the only silver lining in this administration that hopefully gives me a little bit more courage and a little bit more confidence that they might not be able to implement all of their desires, because I certainly do not believe in the Democratic Party as far as like resisting against these initiatives that the Trump administration is implementing.